that when money moves, better things happen. People enjoy more prosperous, rewarding lives, enabled to live, thrive, do business, and build a better connected world. A world where the cultural and economic benefits of diverse populations are valued, where the most remote communities are connected across the economic landscape, and the networks that power the global economy drive opportunity for everyone. That's why we strive every day to provide easy access to the tools for economic prosperity, offering digital and retail services in 200+ countries and territories. To move money around the world with integrity, protecting our customers and platform from potential fraud and illicit activity, to foster a culture of diversity, equity, and inclusion, by cultivating a diverse workforce that reflects our global customer base, supporting global citizens as they provide the essential lifeline to their home communities through higher standards of responsibility, integrity, and sustainability. Western Union, globally minded, purpose-driven. Learn more in our 2020 ESG report. We believe.
Okay. So my name's Evan Escobido. I work at Western Union. I've been there for about 4 years now. And actually I was brought in to look at their social listening capabilities. And over the last 4 years, that has transitioned from not just social media listening, but more media listening across the different channels, whether it's social, broadcast, traditional online news, et cetera. So what I'd like to do today is just talk about that transition that I've had over the last 4 years. And I think the title of this is Becoming a Strategic Influencer. That would be presumptive of me to say that you're not a strategic influencer in your organization, but I'd like to just share my experiences and hopefully you could take something out of this, at least if not inspiration, a little nugget of a new way to think about things within your organization. Western Union, we're just celebrating our 170 years. Started with the telegram to launching satellites to it's all about becoming the leader in cross-border, cross-currency with 600,000 agent locations, 200 territories that we provide services to in the currencies. But Western Union being 170 years old, it's actually a cool company, I must say. I'm actually inspired by the purpose that they share. It's all about when money moves freely, good things happen. So a little bit about Western Union. When we talk about our owned social channels, this is a little bit about what we're talking about at Western Union. About 12 million followers across all of our channels, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, et cetera, LinkedIn. So there's a lot of conversation happening that we need to tap into. And it's about tapping into that conversation to generate insights is what is our jobs here, right, with social listening. On average, we are seeing around 60 to 70,000 mentions of Western Union every month, so 60,000 mentions. I'd say there's brands in here that are triple that, and there are brands in here that are certainly less than that. But for us, it's our job to just filter out the noise, and there's a lot of noise, to come up with those true insights that we can influence the organization with. This is probably familiar with a lot of you in the audience in that how we use NetBase today certainly have the regular cadence of reports, whether it's weekly reports or monthly reports or quarterly reports. But that continuous cadence of reporting is critical to the business and feeding those insights to our stakeholders. Real-time monitoring, we have a team, small team, but a team in place every day using real-time monitoring from NetBase. We have community management, and this is actually supplementing our community managers using a different platform, own channels versus earned conversation that we feed them insights around or information around. So community management, ad hoc market research, definitely seeing a lot of that come into play in the way of requests. NetBase is great for ad hoc research, whether it's industry or brand or competitive. Sentiment analysis, absolutely. And then competitive intelligence. So low-hanging fruit, right? In the way of some other use cases that we are using NetBase. We have the command center going. We have a couple of dashboards that we rely on and the team rely on daily. So if you're not using their command center, you should look at that. We are using social listening for sponsorships and assessing how effective our sponsorships are. In this case, is an example of our logo sponsorship, Western Union logo sponsorship with the Denver Nuggets. So whether it's looking at mentions and posts and top engaged posts and engagements, feeding this and partnering with that team, the Denver Nuggets, on what's working and what's not, where we should improve. So certainly sponsorship analysis. Voice of the customer. If you are not looking at and combining voice of the customer, we talked about Net Promoter Score, voice of the customer survey data with NetBase unsolicited social data, you should be. And just a quick comment on this. This was actually a really interesting use case from about 6 months ago to a year ago. And it all started with the product team laying out what that customer journey is, right? So you're not going to be successful in going where you want to go unless you understand where you are and how to get there. When it comes to what we call straight-through processing, it was looking at the different customer experience scenarios, whether it's using the web, woo.com, or using our app, or going to one of those 600,000 locations, clearly defining, mapping out on a board where a successful customer journey is, and then with voice of the customer and social data, combining that data set to get a cue of where the pain points are, right? So this was done, and you could see the different examples of successful versus not successful customer experiences. And this was very, very valuable to the product team. Taking the data, continuously looking at the data to understand where those pain points are. So if you're not using that combined data set of voice of the customer as well as social data into one data set, definitely look at that. And this is something that, talk about my 4-year journey at Western Union, really being not just a provider of data, as in providing information on data, being an informer of data, but moving to a strategic influencer within the organization. So I'm going to talk about what that includes for me, and hopefully you could take a little bit out of this if it makes sense. So for me and for us, it was all about understanding our business drivers, right? And how many of you are in the marketing side of the organization versus comms and PR side of the organization, or other? Who's in the marketing side? Okay, who's in comms, public relations? Okay, so a few of you. So it's a little bit less than half. So my role reports into the corporate communications officer, the comms PR side. And I think this is where things really began to evolve for me and my influence within the organization. When you go out and you talk to those organizational leaders, whether it's products or comms or marketing, there's a certain set of business drivers or objectives, reputation factors that they want to certainly understand, but also those business priorities. So for us, this is just an example of this is not exhaustive. For us, just like within your organization, you have these business drivers of product or platform. You have these business drivers of performance and what that includes, how you want to be seen as an organization, how you want to be known as an organization, performance, or being an employer of choice, or being a digital leader, or being a responsible corporate citizen. So the exercise for us, kind of step one, was to really understand what those business drivers are, work with those leaders, and map them out in the way of definition, which ultimately will become keywords that you put into your media monitoring platforms to create these categories, right? So these business reputational categories, step one. So we did that. The next step was to understand where you want to be seen from a brand standpoint. So certainly social, but those tier one outlets, and again, I'm talking from a perspective of not just social, but comms, right? So it's not just social listening, but media listening as a whole, broadcast media, online news media. So that full data set. So understanding that there are priorities that we take as an organization and to define those priorities, right? Social, what we would call top outlets across the region. We reached out and said, okay, what are these top publications, these top sources that we want to be seen in, that we want to be known in, and those tier one outlets, right? Those over 3 million in reach publications. So as all of that data comes in, we categorize that data based on those business priorities, and then we apply a unique algorithm or model that actually scores these mentions to create this media reputation score or media impact score. Now, what we found out is when you do this, a mention is not just a mention. Because, as we all know, working in large brands, when somebody talks about your brand, when we see volume and reach, and that's all we care about, that's different than when we see, is it coming from a target source, a target publication that we care about? Yes, reach is important. Yes, social media echo or influence is important. Yes, sentiment and tone is important. Prominence. Are we as a brand prominently in that article or in that mention, reference in that mention? Are we the brand, and there's no other brand talked about in that mention, in that article or in that social post? Are our key messages, 2 slides ago, business priorities, are our key messages coming across in that mention or article? Is there a company image? Do we have the voice? Is the voice coming from an executive? What's the output in the way of action from the article? So this is all to say a unique scoring algorithm. This is very complicated, I apologize, but a unique algorithm is put on top of this data, and we score. And the whole point of this, or one of the key points of this, I believe, is when it comes to quantitative data and informing versus qualitative data, looking at the data, creating a narrative to influencing, this is the distinction that I would suggest there is as we do our functions in our organizations. So target source, reach, there's an algorithm. In combination with image and voice, and prominence and salience comes up with a score. Are you guys with me, or am I just, okay. Now, as a comms and social team, what does this mean to us, right? What does it mean to our brand? This is what we are after as comms professionals or as marketing professionals. That earned coverage from a prominent industry source that has all of those scoring factors to create a media reputation score is what we are after, right? It's as simple as that. So when you have a prominent source, in this case, payments.com, has our brand, has an image. Oh, by the way, there's some amazing social echo involved. Comes up with a media reputation score. That's what we're after as professionals, comms or marketing. This is very complicated, but this is when it comes to producing actionable insights or influencing the organization, coming up with views through these lenses of media reputation or media impact scoring, you begin to unfilter themes that we can not just communicate to the organization, but actually influence the organization. So trending themes, overall volume, competitive summaries, which I've blocked out some of our competitors, but you're able to track and understand where you sit from a brand standpoint, where you are compared to your competitors that you care to compete with from a comp standpoint, and voila, right? So the point of this is, over the last couple years, over the last year really, of me digging into this and coming up with this media reputation score, it has provided me with the ability to not just inform with reports on a monthly basis, as in like, I am an informer of data, to really become an influencer within the organization. Again, whether it's the product team or the comms team or the marketing team, to really understand current landscape of where we were, right? These reports that we produce on a monthly basis, and they're amazing reports and they're impactful reports. To understand our messages, are they getting through? What our competitors are doing. Again, these tactical decisions, which are quantitative based, to how do we improve our strategy? And when you are beginning to answer that question, how do we improve our strategy based on data from media? You're able to uncover those ideas of, as an organization, how we want to be seen, understand the perception that's out there, to understand how we want to be known, the reputation that exists within the brand, to becoming targeted to the audience and relevance, to becoming that strategic influencer. And one of the key ideas with this is you're not just relying on the platform, NetBase. You're not just relying on the machine, but you're taking the data and AI and all those amazing things that NetBase provides you. You're taking that data, and for this, in my opinion, in my experience, for this to really become valuable is to provide that human analysis on top of that with that custom scoring that I shared with you. So with that, Lorraine, I'm doing good on time, right? Okay. What do we think? Yes. Good, good. Very cool. Yes, please. Yeah. Really good question. So how much of this is like automated versus, human analysis going in? The whole point about doing that prioritization of publications where you want to be seen, that's critical, because otherwise you'd be looking at, thousands upon tens of thousands of articles. Applying that methodology is it's humans doing that. We've partnered with a third party to actually do that human analysis. For us, that's where the value is, because you're looking at, it could be a few thousand articles a month, but those are articles, those are publications, those are sources, those are social influencers that we really, really care about. And for us to understand where we stack up in the way of our messages getting through, are we being seen, perception being seen as an employer of choice or responsible corporate citizen or a digital leader, there's human analysis involved with that. So it's a human analysis that's relied on quite a bit, quite significantly or extensively. Yeah, well, the beauty of social is it's all unsolicited data that we want to tap into. Now, there is actually an internal argument of, do we want to tap it or cap it based on influencer, as in over X number of followers, or not? Where we are today is it's publications or sources that we care about, and it's capped at a certain follower base. Now, that's not to say that we don't care about, the person that's sending money that has an issue that only has 10, family members that are followers on his or her Twitter account. We certainly care about that, but that's in a different bucket versus from a media impact score. Yeah, it's based on as in followers. What else? Yeah. 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 So in the way of pain points that we were able to influence the company, maybe a different way to say that, if I can, is like impact, right? What we were stuck on, and this is my perspective again, we were stuck on the whole idea of outputs and outcomes as a group, right? So the group was all about, we're working with the marketing team, we're working with the social media team, we're creating some amazing content. We are posting this amount of times. We have this much engagement. So those posts, those different pieces of output or press releases or what have you, would create a certain number of outputs. Would create a certain number of outcomes, as in those KPIs that we're all familiar with: number of posts, number of mentions, sentiment, engagements, etc. This was it. We were able to understand like impact of our outputs, right? So we moved from outputs to outcomes to impact, and that impact influence is where we find ourselves today. Because again, like that ideal output, as in that payments article where you had the brand and executive and quoted, and that's good stuff, right? As a company, as a brand, and as we work with our comms team, as we work with our marketing team, like, you want to do more of that. Do less of this and do more of how do we do more of that? So hopefully that answered your question. I'm not sure. Yeah. 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 Like, I think the impact or the insight to focus on what's important to us, I think, was critical, just from my own experience at the company. Spreading yourself too thin. I mean, I think the opportunity of this to like focus on what's important, because our executives, the organization, everyone's like really busy, right? And like, what do we really focus on? What's really important to us? That was a critical piece in the way of like the insights, because, and then breaking it down into the pillars or the business categories, and like the work behind that, as in each of those categories, there's a number. I mean, it's Boolean, it's keywords, right? So working with those different teams and saying, you know, here's the opportunity. Here's what these platforms, NetBase. Here's what NetBase can do for us. We want to help you. We want to partner with you. Let's work together to define these categories, and let's come up with a set of keywords. And is it going to be 100%? No, but it's going to be a lot better than where we are. That whole exercise is the spirit of collaboration that, in my opinion, is very important in the way of just that true partnership. To where I have now the ability to present that dashboard on a monthly basis because they were involved in the process. Anything else? Good.
Of my clients specifically are working on making some of those media kind of scores. So it's always interesting to hear how different organizations as well as industries are, tackling that these days. So thank you for a very great session.